Welcome to State of the Arts. I'm Amber Edwards. A father's death, a daughter's first formal, a son's braces. Home and family are the well-traveled terrain of poet Sharon Olds, but a comfortable and familiar world it is not. Her poems create a shock of recognition in the reader and sometimes the thrill of enjoying something that perhaps you shouldn't. Her latest collection, called The Wellspring, is one woman's journey from her own conception to life after the children are gone. Here is Sharon Olds reading First Birth.
First Birth. I had thought so little really of her inside me all that time, not breathing, intelligent, maybe curious, her eyes closed. When the vagina opened slowly from within, from the top, my eyes rounded in shock and awe. It was like being entered for the first time, but entered from the inside, the child coming in from the other world. Enormous, stately, she was pressed through the channel, she turned and rose. They held her up by a very small ankle. She dangled indigo and scarlet and spread her arms out in this world. Each thing I did then, I did for the first time, touched the flesh of our flesh, brought the tiny mouth to my breast. She drew the avalanche of milk down off the mountain. I felt as if I was nothing, no one. I was everything to her. I was hers.
Sharon, what a wonderful poem.
Thank you.
You have chosen subject matter that a lot of people would shy away from, birth and sex and very intimate but universal experiences.
Well, the poetry that I was reading when I was growing up, or the poems I heard in the hymns at church, were not about what came to seem to me to be the ordinary things in my life and my friends' lives when I began to write poems. And I knew we weren't supposed to write about those things, and yet why not?
You write almost all the time in the first person, and I'm curious if some of the other people who appear in your poems, father, mother, children, husband, ever feel a little exposed by the personal quality of your work?
I think I could give maybe two answers to that. One is the thing about the I in anyone's poem for me is that if I don't sort of fit inside it in a way or identify with it or see the world through it, connect with it as an ordinary human voice, then I don't think it's worth much as a pronoun in poetry in a way. It's not just somebody's experience, it's, oh, I know what that feels like. The other part of the question is harder for me to answer because I took a vow about 10 years ago to not talk about actual family because of the very personal nature of the work, that it seemed, it's a little like closing the barn door a little late, but it seemed like something I could do to try to, in a way, protect the poems from the people, but most of all, the people from the poems. I'm much more conservative now. That book has a lot of names in it.
Have you been able to keep the vow?
Yes, so far.
I won't press you.
I'm tempted.
Press you. You also, in The Wellspring, which is your latest volume, you have a lot of flights of imagination where you imagine yourself as an egg or a fetus inside the womb. Do you have a very, very early childhood memory? Do you remember what that was?
I do. It's not, I don't know what book it's in, but I've written about being behind bars, but in a very sweet sense of some being moving back and forth. Not clear to me that I'm behind the bars or that being is.
I think that is in The Wellspring.
But some wonderful being moving in and out of the light and dark of the visibility, invisibility. It comes to me maybe a little like bars of music in a way.
You use language, it seems, as a tool for getting at your experiences rather than, I know a lot of poets just are turned on by language.
Yes. Well, I know just what you mean. I think in me it's not so much on that side. This subject matter seems to be equal in strength to the love of language. But I do love words with all my heart. I always have. But there is that interplay, I guess, in many poets' work, I think, between the worship of the words themselves and the hope to come out of silence and talk to each other, and a balance between that and whatever the narrative might be.
I know that you have a PhD from Columbia, and that you didn't start really publishing poems until you were in your middle to late 30s. Is that, what were you getting ready? Were you writing that whole time? Were you thinking of doing something other than poetry?
I was writing so badly. I mean, especially badly. I was trying to write like people whose writing I admired, whose spirits and experiences were nothing like mine.
What made you know that at some point you got good?
Oh, I think most of us tend to focus on what's not working and to work at making it work. When I'm on a retreat and we're all writing new first drafts together and bringing them to read each other at 10 in the morning, then good, not good, I feel that we're all engaged in this adventure of wanting to move forward.
I have asked you to read one of my favorite of your poems in closing today, and can you tell me a little bit about how this poem came to be written? I'll prompt you. I'll hand it to you.
I'll trade you. Thank you. Oh, I think I saw a photograph. I think I just saw a photograph, and then it seems to one, I think, that an idea just comes into one's mind, that one doesn't cook up a poem like, you know, a cake, add this, add that, but just one is sitting there and then,
Okay, well, I can't wait to hear it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I go back to May 1937. I see them standing at the formal gates of their colleges. I see my father strolling out under the ochre sandstone arch, the red tiles glinting like bent plates of blood behind his head. I see my mother with a few light books at her hip, standing at the pillar made of tiny bricks, with the wrought iron gate still open behind her, its sword tips black in the May air. They are about to graduate. They are about to get married. They are kids. They are dumb. All they know is they are innocent. They would never hurt anybody. I want to go up to them and say, stop, don't do it. She's the wrong woman. He's the wrong man. You are going to do things you cannot imagine you would ever do. You are going to do bad things to children. You are going to suffer in ways you have not heard of. You are going to want to die. I want to go up to them there in the late May sunlight and say it. Her hungry, pretty, blank face turning to me, her pitiful, beautiful, untouched body. His arrogant, handsome face turning to me, his pitiful, beautiful, untouched body. But I don't do it. I want to live. I take them up like the male and female paper dolls and bang them together at the hips like chips of flint, as if to strike sparks from them. I say, do what you are going to do, and I will tell about it.
Thank you, Sharon. Sharon Olds launched this year's Poetry in the Round series at Seton Hall University. Upcoming authors include Nathaniel Mackey, Jay Wright, and Yuno Diaz. For a more complete